Okay, we are live. I know some others aren't going to be able to join us today, and that's fine, but they will be able to watch the recording, so that's okay. Any problems from last month's block other than, having too small a piece of the striped fabric, but I know that was taken care of eventually or here for you, so. Any concerns with all of that? No, okay, well, that's great. I'm glad to know that anyway. So block number 3 has got 3 different houses in it. And that's these here. So I'm going to start off with the first one, which is block number 6, which looks like a couple of townhouses. And like other months, I am making a little miniature version. I will give you the link at some point if you want. Edita, what she has done on her blog, she has the measurements of how to make this pattern, but in miniature. And so you can see the difference in size, right? This is, but it helps me just to refresh my memory from, having made the blocks, and then I can show you then like my pressing and stuff. It's much easier to do that. So, what is with these 3 houses, you're going to have 3 different fabrics and you're going to mix them up for them. So for that, I've got this very pale blue, which has like little flowers with a square on it. Okay. So there's that one. There is the fabric with the darker blue and looks like almost a pussy willow type of bloom on it. There's the dark navy. And then there's the medium blue, which is this one here that has the little branches on it. Also has a touch of gold in this particular fabric. Okay, so you're going to be cutting the same pieces out of all 3 of these fabrics. And then you're going to mix them up. You can mix them up differently than I did, or you could do the same. It doesn't matter, sort of thing. So
I only have 2.
You don't have this light blue one?
No.
Okay, if it was missing in your kit, then that was a mistake. We'll get one to you.
Okay.
Okay.
I could maybe email the store. I'm missing my roofs from block 5 too, or from the last session as well. But yeah, I have these three fabrics. Those are that all say 6 on them.
Okay. Yeah, no, there should be. So that is Donna.
Donna.
Yeah, Donna's missing this light blue from house number 6. Yes. Okay, Sarah's made a note of that for you, Donna. Okay.
Thank you. Yep.
You want that mailed to you, or you're going to come by? I don't know what to do, a curb pickup.
I'm a mail person.
You're a mail person.
So she can just include it in my next mailing.
Okay, you heard that, Sarah? All right, Sarah will include that for you. She's made a note of it. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome, and sorry about that. So anyway, from each of these fabrics, you're going to cut 1A from each one. Okay, and the A piece is going to be the roof. That's the roof on each of the houses. Okay, so 1A from each of these 3 fabrics. Then from the B, because your pattern says 6 rectangles, you're going to cut 2 B pieces from each of these fabrics. Okay, you're with me on that one? Because you're going to need 2 of the B pieces, which are these longer strips here. And that's, so you need 2 of them for each of those houses. And again, from each of those 3 fabrics, you're going to cut 1 C and 1 D piece. And the pattern's pretty good about like, oh, and also one E piece. Sorry, E piece is the chimney. Okay, so that's all that you're going to be cutting from these 3 pieces for your 3 townhouses. I'm going to call them townhouses because that's what they look like to me. Okay. When you sew your houses together, you're going to sew the equal pieces together for the house here. And then whichever way you want to mix up the roofs and the chimneys, like I chose to match the chimney to the roof, but you don't have to. You can mix them up even more thoroughly than what I did. Okay. Okay, we're up to E. So H is your H, I, and J are the background piece. So it is this sort of, it looks like a little yellowy piece with a little circle on it. Okay. So H, I, and J are all going to be cut from that particular fabric. I did miss the G piece. The G is the windows. So it's this gold fabric with a little leaf print on it. It'll be the smallest piece in your kit. Can you see that? Gold with a little leaf to it. And I use that for the 3 windows, all the same windows in each of the townhouses. And then the last piece you're going to have with that is sort of this cream color with the blue stars on it. And that is the sashing that's going along the side in between. That'll be between house number 6 and house 7. Okay, so that is actually the F piece that's cut out of this one with the blue stars. Couple of things I wanted to do. I assembled my houses a little bit differently than what the pattern did, and I'm going to show you that, and I'm also going to tell you why I did that. The first thing I did was I did assemble the house itself, just that, not with the roof on it at this point, okay? And like all of the other ones, what I've done is that I have pressed everything away from the window. So if you look on the back, you can see I've pressed everything is away from the window. Okay. Again, because I wanted my windows to look like they're recessed. So if everything is pressed away from it, it'll be the furthest back if you think of it from background to foreground. Okay. The next thing that I did at that point is I put on the roof piece. Whichever fabric I was using, I was adding my A piece to it. Okay, so then I had just my house that looked just like that at the moment. So it's just the roof and the main part of the house. Now, when I pressed the roof pieces, what I did do is that on my 3 houses, 2 of the roofs I pressed towards the roof, and 1 I pressed towards the house. The middle one I pressed towards the house. The reason I did that is when I joined these 3 together, I could nest the seams in this point here and to reduce the bulk. Okay, does that make sense why I did it that way? It's a little different than what they're showing on the pattern, but I think, you know, the pressing is important on this. The next thing that I did once I had those 3 townhouses joined together, those center seams I pressed open. Again, I did that in order to just reduce the bulk. Debbie will appreciate that when she gets to quilt mine. We don't want to break needles on your long arm. Okay, does that make sense to you why I've pressed it that way? So then when I did this next little narrow piece in here, which has the chimney pieces in between the background, okay, I have pressed towards the chimneys. Now on my smaller version, it looks like it's, but I have pressed that. Oh, Again, I wanted the chimneys to kind of stand out a little bit. And so by pressing the seams towards the chimney, it gives it a little bit more substance. And also because the background is fairly light and these are darker pieces, so I'm pressing towards the dark basically. And then that strip is going to get added to your 3 townhouses. And then the background piece is just one rectangle on top. That's easy. And then I did press that towards there again, just to keep the bulk reduced. Can you see how I've pressed that? I know it's miniature, but I think it's easier to see that way than if I turned the quilt, backwards. And then of course, adding your piece of sashing to that again, is just another straight piece. How have you all been making out with having your pieces lined up, because when you've got pieces where you've got 3 or 4 or 5 pieces and then you're adding one rectangle to it, but they need to be the same length. Are you coping with that okay? Good, good. Glad to hear it. Okay, so that's all I have on block, or not block, this is all block 3, but on house number 6. Okay, any questions on block 6 so far? Okay, well then we'll go on to house number 7. House number 7 is a bit more straightforward. It's I've got the light blue, so this is my little miniature one. So it's got a door and 3 windows and a roof. So there's really no background in this particular house. So the fabrics that you have from so you've got this light blue fabric with gold and white stars on it. That is the roof fabric, so that is A. And that's the only thing you're going to cut from that particular fabric. Okay. Then the house itself is from this medium blue that has sort of the branches on it. Okay. And from that, you're going to be cutting the pieces B, C, D, and E. All of those are going to be cut from that blue fabric. Then I've used the same fabric for the door and the windows, just keep it simple, but Edita did the same thing too. So it's this very pale, almost a whitish background with a little tiny blue, light blue dot. Okay, and from that you're cutting G, H, and I. Then the only other thing on this block is the sashing piece, which is F. So this is that creamy one, which has just a smattering of little blue dots on it. Okay, I don't know how well it's showing. I have an extra light here so that I don't have so much of a shadow coming down. So hopefully that, but it's the only piece you'll have left for house number 7. Again, here I did the same thing with my pressing. I have pressed away from the windows, and then when I've added the longer rectangular pieces, I have pressed towards them. So everything is pressed away from the windows again, just to make them look like they're recessed. And then because of the bulk with all these seams, when I added the roof piece, I pressed up towards the roof, and then the sashing piece is on. So I get to show you the good side and the back side. That's front side, back side. Okay. So I think that house is fairly straightforward. I don't think there's any concerns there. Okay. Now you might have one larger piece of this sashing piece that you cut the F from, because it's used twice. It's also used with house number 8. Okay, so I'm pointing here, I've got it. It's a narrower one here and a slightly wider one at the very end of this block number 3. So I think we've cut the kits so that you have one piece of this fabric, and you should be able to get both of those. I think they're F in both the patterns anyway, for both house number 7 and house number 8. So should be able to get that. All right. I think we did that, didn't we, Sarah? Yeah, she's nodding to me, so. Okay, so we'll move on to house number 8. And house number 8 just has a one angled roof on it. So it's a small house, probably a little cottage, I guess I would call it. So one of the things that I, again, did a little differently than what the pattern is, because when you are creating this roof piece, you are basically doing a half square triangle. So what the pattern is, and that half square triangle, this roof is made up of your A piece, which is this, and your H piece, which is the background. Okay, and I'll get to which fabrics they are. The pattern tells you to cut a square of each at 4 7/8, and then to cut it once on the diagonal, and to use only one of your triangles from each of them. What I chose to do instead is I cut mine at 5 inches. And I made a true, where we mark on the diagonal like that. And then I sewed, if you mark on the diagonal, you sew a 1/4 inch on either side of that. And you can create 2 half square triangles at the same time. So here's my other half square triangle from my full size roof. Now, they don't utilize this anywhere else in the pattern, but I find having already created and sewing on the diagonal, when it's a square, it's much easier. It's a lot more stable for sewing it. And we have some other half square triangles that we are creating through our different houses. So I haven't come up with a plan yet, but something's percolating. So I'll figure it out before the end of our class. So I just sewed it right away, and I have that stuck in my binder. But I just thought I'd like to do that. But once you have that sewn, then this gets squared up to 4 1/2 inches. Your half square triangle should be 4 1/2 inches. Okay, and that is before it is sewn in. So whether you're using Eleanor's triangle square up ruler, or if you're using a regular ruler to square it up, whatever way you do it, that's fine. But might as well sew both of them right away, and it's easier done that way. Okay, so going into the fabrics of that. So this is a medium blue, but it's a slightly lighter shade than the blue of the same print that we used in house number 7. Okay, so that's where I'm suggesting you cut a 5-inch square. Yes, Donna, that's right. You're holding the right one. Okay. So that is cut a 5-inch square instead of the 4 7/8. Then the actual house itself is this navy blue with their leaves, but they have some gold in the leaf too. Almost looks like little eyes as well. However, but I think you won't confuse it. You only have a few fabrics that are used in house number 8. So for that one, you're going to cut B, C, D, and E are all cut from this fabric. Okay. Then you're going to have a small piece for G, which is the window. And again, that's a gold, but it's the other gold print from the windows that we used in house number 6. It looks like there's little circles. Some have a little stem on it. Anyhow. And then the background is also this pretty creamy yellow. It's very faint like that, but it has little X's on it if you look really closely. That is your background fabric, and that's what you're going to cut H and I. Remember, H is going to be a 5-inch square as opposed to the 4 7/8. There's no reason that you can't do it exactly as the pattern has described, but I like to make it a little easier, and I love anything that I can do to increase my accuracy. So that's why I would cut it just that extra 1/8 of an inch and then square it up to the 4.5 afterwards. And then the F piece is that same sashing fabric that we used here before. So I've used it twice, you know, side by side. Other than that, putting the house together, it's the same as we have been doing in other houses. The middle section, you've got 3 pieces. You've got your E piece, the window, the G, and that bottom, and then you just got rectangles on either side of it. And again, in the back, I have pressed away totally, you know, from the window. And it's always easier when you've got multiple seams here to press it towards the one piece where there is no additional seams. Again, so I can make it easier for Debbie. I'm getting a smile from Debbie today. And other than that, this is not a complicated house to put together at all. And then after that, you can join all 3 houses together to form your block number 3. And then it should look like from here to here. Okay, so you'll have all that without the snowflake, because that's going to come at the very end. Okay, I know it's not a lot of instructions, but I don't think this is too complicated this month. I just had a few pointers I wanted to, you know, to bring to your attention. So any questions from anybody? Doesn't look like it.
Forward.
Okay, so Sarah has, she has sent out an email, or you're going to be sending out an email with the link for the recording, so you can always look at it at another time. They are changing it slightly in that there'll be a link to to the Kindred Spirits website, but it's going to be embedded, and without that link, you wouldn't be able to just find it on the website. So, but that'll be made clear. You know, you'll have the link and then you'll be okay, so you can refer to it. All righty.
Yep.
This is getting shorter. I don't know. Anyway, okay, if you have any questions though during the month, you know, you can contact me, you know, directly, those of you that know where I live, and if not through the store, it's not a problem.
Thanks,
Okay.
Gloria.
Okay,
Thank
thanks
you.
Donna and Donna,
Thank you.
Deb and Carla.
Happy sewing.
Okay, thanks. You too, Barb. Right. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Gloria.
You're welcome. Stop recording. Do you want to stop? Yeah.